President, to the bill.
Oh, to the bill, please. Thank you.
Thank you. We finally get to the answer. $80 to $100 million tax increase. Mr. President, every Oregon family has a family history, which is a real history, and a family mythology. And in my family, Mr. President, I'd like to share some of that mythology. Bootlegger. My grandfather had come to this country in 1908, settled in New York. With the advent of Prohibition, he moved his family to Connecticut, New Britain, Connecticut. And in Connecticut, he became a dairy farmer. I don't know the name of the dairy farm. I like to think of it as the Sunshine Dairy in Connecticut. 2 large barns, a fleet of 20 milk trucks, and 2 very contented cows. We're told that the alcohol came in from Canada, good Canadian whiskey, and the alcohol came from Great Britain, probably gin, and good Scots whiskey. And that those trucks were filled with that product. And
Senator, wait a minute. What's the matter? What was the... Excuse me. I'm sorry, Senator, your time right. I didn't. Excuse me, Senator. Please proceed.
And that product was lovingly loaded into those 20 trucks and moved into New York State and New Jersey. Bootlegger, Mr. President. But the way this measure comes to the floor and the way it's characterized today would make my bootlegger grandfather blush. This is a tax measure. It's going to raise $96 million in revenue. Ain't no question about it. Needs a 3/5 majority. We have an opinion from the Legislative Revenue Office. It's very specific. This measure will tax unemployment benefits. Oh, yes, it will. $15 million in 09-11. $15 million of taxes on unemployed benefits. Incredible. The special expensing rules will be suspended. That the 08 stimulus law temporarily increases those amounts. That'll produce $3 million in revenue. Direct hit on Oregon businesses. Direct hit. Boom. Nice shooting. Bonus depreciation, and this is something that really hurts. All over Oregon, small business people have had to make an agonizing decision about whether or not to make investments in their companies that took money right out of the bottom line. Maybe they even spent their retirement income to remain competitive, to buy the equipment, to buy the materials, to invest in the increase in capacity so they could remain competitive. And they agonized over those decisions, and family members were consulted, and bankers were talked to, and finally, the decision probably came down to a heart-to-heart discussion with their CPA. And what made it sensible to stay and fight in Oregon for the survival of the business was the accelerated depreciation that would allow some of that money to come back into the business. Well, this suspends that opportunity retroactively. So we're sending a message to those businesses who sucked it up and took the leap of faith and put their $150,000 in and got their banker to agree to a $200,000 loan at not very favorable interest rates to capitalize those improvements. And guess what? The depreciation reward for that, the incentive for that, built into every other state in the union, disappears in Oregon. How much does that cost us? $78 million. Now, folks, you just approved $177 million in spending in order to create 3,000 jobs. And now you're going to take away about $100 million in tax credits for Oregonians and zero out half the jobs you just created. This is insensible. On your desks you have a communication from the people whose jobs you just tried so hard to incent. Associated Oregon Industries, Oregon Restaurant Association, Oregon Metals Industry Council, NFIB of Oregon, Oregon Concrete and Aggregate Producers, Oregon Seed Council, Oregon Small Business Coalition, Oregon Farm Bureau, Oregon Home Builders Association, Northwest Food Processors Association, Oregonians for Food and Shelter, Oregon Plumbing and Heating and Cooling Contractors have all said, please don't do this. Now, Mr. President, we can argue till we're purple about whether this is a revenue-increasing measure. LRO says it is. When President Obama signs the stimulus package, there's no argument left. Republicans did everything we could to delay this bill for a couple more days, so there would be no ambiguity about whether this is a tax vote or not. Well, you know what? It quacks like a duck. It's a tax increase. And trust me, as soon as Senator Obama or President Obama signs the bill, we are going to go back through LRO and get that revenue statement that needed to be attached to this measure, demonstrating that it's a tax increase, and we will publish it far and wide. You're voting today on a tax increase. Let's not mince words or obfuscate or bootleg a tax increase, because that's what we're doing. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Winters yielded her time. Recognize Senator Cruz, please.